Under the ever-present gaze of Big Brother beamed on telescreens throughout Oceania, Winston Smith, a member of the Outer Party, works at the Ministry of Truth correcting historical records. Confused by doublethink, he secretly keeps a diary outlining his disillusionment with the party. When he meets and falls in love with Julia, Winston's thought crime is exposed. Their affair lands him in room 101 at the Ministry of Love, where he must face his worst fear and either fight or finally yield to Big Brother.
OK, Glenn, it's a book that we all think we know. Tell us why you love it.
I think just because it's very rare that a book becomes the last word on its subject matter. And I think this is one of those books. It's very difficult to imagine sitting down and saying, I'm going to write a dystopian novel about totalitarian... Oh, wait, no point. There's no need for another one ever, because this has the whole lot. It's huge. I mean, it fell like a slab of stone into my reading life when I was about 15 and has just stayed there like a monolith, and it will be there with me until I die. It was also the first book that I read, I think, that gave me an idea of just what a book could do. It's massive in every way. It goes to fundamental questions in a style that is not showy. There's no pyrotechnics on the page. He's a great stylist for that. And it was just... it became, I suppose, a sort of cornerstone of my picture of the world. I mean, nothing less than that. And it's also the fact that it's all done against this backdrop of a completely believable, heartbreaking love story. So yeah, I mean, it's monumental in every way.
Completely believable love story. What do we think, Dr. Greer?
Well, I had such a strange experience with this book because, as a Sydney libertarian, it was absolutely prescribed. So was almost all Orwell, down and out in Paris and London, you name it, from beginning to end. And I've always loved Orwell as a stylist because it's the stylist with no evident style. And that's quite opposite from Jeanette Winterson, because you know you're getting style flung around your ears the whole time. When I was growing up, we thought this book was about Russia. Which is one reason why we liked it, because we thought it was a critique of the whole screw-up that was state capitalism in Russia. And, you know, the Russians commandeering the history of technology in the West and all that kind of thing, and the poverty and the misery of the economy under Comintern and so on. So we could all see all that as something happening to other people. But then, when the Soviet Union implodes, you suddenly realise it's actually not about them at all, it's about us. And then you start thinking, my God, there are no media in here. There is no Murdoch empire, which is the strange, empty thing, because the kinds of distortions of the truth, the inventions of concepts that don't really exist, and the giving of them with some kind of shelf life is what the media now do as the most powerful organisation in the information society. But would you say that this book does more than, say, Kafka, The Trial, or The Castle, which is so much shorter? And so, but it's not just that it's short, it's archetypal. You know, that this is how you make people crazy. This is how you oppress people.
But this feels archetypal, and I think if it didn't, the passage of its lexicon into common English would not have happened. I mean, I think the fact that we have Room 101 and Big Brother and Doublethink, you know, that actually testifies to the archetypal nature of the ideas.
Marieke?
It's brutal. It's a very unpleasant book to read. But I also think it's a very difficult book to review because it's hard to separate the influence, the vernacular, the ideas from just a book and prose. And sometimes the prose is, it's flat. Sometimes the characters are flat. So the violence is too much for me at parts. But how do you separate the two? It's so much more than just a book. And I actually, this was the first time I'd read it, and I spoke to a lot of people who said, I read it at 15 and it changed my life. And sometimes I feel like you have to read it at 15 to have that impassioned pull to it, because I found it hard just not to read as a book and then have this giant cloud of ideas and influence over it.
So I found it, this is the second time I've read it. First time I read it, I found it very frightening indeed, and I found it
Still?
Equally, yeah, I did. I found it, it's one of the most terrifying books I've ever read. And also the moment when, I don't think we can worry about spoilers.
I think people know the plot of 1984.
No, but it's just the moment that the lovers are discovered, When I read that, it was like a Carrie, you know, in the film Carrie, where the hand.
Yeah.
It was
Stephen
like
King
that.
book.
You know, we are the dead, and then that voice that comes out from behind the "you are the dead." I found that absolutely terrifying, and it's still terrifying.
What you would argue, if you were an old Leaverite like me at Cambridge University, is that the satiric positive isn't there. You're at sea from the beginning because you don't have any. There is no truth. The truth is gone. It's completely manipulable. It's infinitely
But you see the
falsifiable.
mechanism. But you see the mechanism, and that's the difference. You actually see. I think that's some of the brilliant bits when you. I'd forgotten that Winston's job was actually changing the past. You see how he retrieves the newspapers and changes it, and. So it doesn't seem blank to me because you see how the mechanism works.
And also, so what? I mean, so if it is Orwell's view that, you know, reality is endlessly manipulable, so what's wrong with saying that? I mean, if that's the way he sees it. I mean, I'm convinced by the end of the book that, you know, if that mechanism was in place, you could completely destroy people's capacity to remember the past and to argue logically and all the rest of it.
Supposing they ever had a faculty to remember the past.
Yeah, which within a few generations.
Do you find that as a concept interesting in the book?
The really terrible thing is the thought that there is no such thing as truth. That's the bit that for anyone who spends her life struggling to get things right, gives herself a hard time about not distorting things, then you suddenly think it's all delusion. There's no way I'll ever get any of it right. I'll only perpetuate the endless stream of mistakes, of misprision that is the human experience. I don't think I can hack it. I don't think I can do it. I have to believe there is such a thing as getting it right.
So it is frightening to you too.
Bleak, grey, extraordinary, not a beam of light.
I couldn't disagree with you more about the coldness and the extent to which it's not a human or physical or in some way warm narrative, because actually against that backdrop, there's an incredible amount of the body in this book. I mean, unfortunately, because by the time you get to Room 101, you are in Winston's skin. I mean, I felt like that from
very
page.
difficult experience.
I felt like that from page one, including throughout the relationship with Julia. So I actually thought that because of the backdrop, the small sensual touches, I mean, even the descriptions of real coffee and eating a piece of chocolate were incredibly powerful, and I felt completely in Winston's skin in a really physical way, and that's what makes the ending so unbearable.
See, I certainly didn't from page one, but you're right, in the torture chamber, almost too much so. It's an unbearable passage. It is endless. It doesn't stop, and it hurts to read, and that's an incredibly painful experience.
But it is
Sounds
also
like good writing to me.
Yes.
But I was going to say, that's the testament.
No, walking contradiction.
That's the stylistic endorsement, because it's actually really hard to do that. And Orwell speaks very plainly and very understatedly about horrific things and about massive assaults on the body and very small sensual accents as well. And he does that without any kind of razzle.